All right, here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Thursday morning. Special edition of KnicksFanTV, man. CP the franchise in the building. Today's guest, oh my lord, he is a playground legend, a basketball cultural legend around the streets of NYC to around the world, man. He is our guy, Bobbito Garcia, playground baller, announcer, writer, everything, man. This is a big moment, and today we are going to be talking about his new book, Bobbito's book of B-Ball, a memoir, Bing Bong, a memoir by Bobbito Garcia.
It's not Bing Bong, it's Bong Bong.
Bong Bong. I'm bugging. Shout out to them.
Shout out to Team Bing Bong. They making a lot of noise, and I appreciate that.
That's right. Welcome to KnicksFanTV, man.
B, this is a long time overdue. You know, I know you had a hectic season. Shout out to my brother, Coach Enu. Yep. I know he be up in here a lot, you know, talking about all the statistics and the breakdowns and all that. And, you know, he's a good dude. And he told me about CP, KnicksFanTV. So I was like, I'm with it. So when you reached out, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah. This is one of those conversations where I'm 9 years into my journey in doing this, and almost 3 years full time in launching this media platform. And, you know, some days you get caught up in the weeds and the grind of making content and building business. And then it's days like this where it's like, man, like you don't take for granted because you're someone who, me coming up and loving the game and all of the cultural tentacles that feed into the game, you're one of those people, man. You know, you're one of those people, and so it's definitely an honor to have you on the show, man.
Thank you, man. And, you know, props to what you've been doing, too, because I see how you've been grinding since day one. You know, you started with, you know, X amount of followers, and now you're doing, you know, getting quoted from the other media platforms while still doing your independent joint. So that's lovely, man. Keep it up.
For sure, man. Definitely appreciate it. And, you know, when you talk about this book, certainly not your first, but what made you want to write this memoir?
Well, you know, Bobbito's book of B-Ball Bong Bong. I almost said Bong Wong. Wong Bong. Maybe that's the next one, you know, Wong Bong. That could be an ill Puerto Rican cat from the hood, like Wong Bong. I got to come up with a fictional. I mean, listen, you know, I've been blessed, you know, to be born in New York in the 60s, you know, of Puerto Rican parents and then, you know, be there in the 70s for hip hop and the emerging sneaker culture and, you know, just be witness to it at an early age and then, you know, and then be embedded and deep in it, you know, in the 80s and then coming to the 90s, I become a public figure. I'm on radio, I'm writing for magazines and, you know, I'm on TV and, you know, you know, the whole, I look at it and I'm like, yo, I don't even know how all this happened. You know, and now it's 2025. I'm a year away from being 60. And, you know, I feel like it's a duty to go back and storytell because, you know, what I've witnessed and what I've been on the court for, I don't feel has been documented in the way that I'm doing it. I'm a Latino voice raised on hip hop that's as authentic as it gets to the asphalt. You know, I've dedicated my whole life. I got a tournament, FC21 All World. I do it in 30 international locations. You know, I've announced games for Nike. I've been at Rucker on the mic. I've been at West Fourth on the mic. I've been at Kingdom on the mic. You know, just, you know, on and on. The NBA Street Volume 2. You know, I brought that New York vibe to that video game space, and you know, so you know. I just felt like I wanted to share that with people so that to you know, to leave the legacy firm, you know, because otherwise people forget. I forget, you know, and sometimes in the process of writing, you know, I was like, oh, snap. Yeah, I played against Howie Hudson. And a lot of people, if you're not from the 90s, you don't know who Howie Hudson is, you know, but this is a legendary cat. And if I don't write about him, then perhaps other than the people who played against him or watched him, it just goes down the drain, you know? And so it's a memoir, but at the same time, it's a document of New York City playground basketball from the 60s to the present. And then it's a 3-part. You know, you got triple threat and ball where you catch it and you can either pass, dribble, or shoot. Like my book is also like basically like an art book. because it features 30 years of my 35 millimeter photography. I've licensed my images to Nike, Wieden and Kennedy, Foot Locker, Ballaholic in Japan, Pata in Amsterdam. My joints has been in exhibitions, Museum of the City of New York, but nobody thinks about me as a photographer, and
Yeah,
people probably
it's
still
true.
won't, and
It's true.
and that's fine, because I don't even think about myself as a photographer. It's like one of the many things that I've done. But the book has like all this amazing, imagery. Here, check this one out, for example.
Yeah. So you took that?
Yeah, B. Any
Wow.
any photo
Wow.
you see in the book
Yeah.
that's full page or 2 pages, that's me behind the camera.
Wow.
Over 30 years.
Yeah.
Here, look at this photo. I love this photo.
Yep. Oh, yep. I saw that one. I was looking at the photo of the young god, sham god in there.
I took that photo too. That I licensed this photo and I licensed the Sham God photo. I'll show it to your viewers. To Nike for a campaign back in 2005 called The City Is Watching.
Wow.
This is Ali Mo over here.
Yep. Yep.
I took that photo too. So rest in peace to Ali Mo. And big up to Sham God. He's doing so well
Oh yeah.
with his coaching. He did so incredibly with his playing career. Cool cat. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
look, I've been able to be involved in basketball in so many different ways. I coach high school, college, pro-am, semi-pro. I've done clinics, in Africa and Asia and South America, the Caribbean. I was a trainer for the NBPA. A lot of people don't know a lot of stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, let me just bring all this. People know me for hip hop. They know me for the sneakers. And if you're in the b-ball world, then you know me for b-ball. But, it's just like, there was just too much to say, too much to write. And it was a fun process too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's that like? Because I'm looking at this book. I'm like, yo, I mean, you're going straight from your childhood all the way through, all across the globe. And like I said, every aspect, every facet of the culture. What was that like? Just, kind of getting all that information out of your head and onto the paper.
I mean, I wrote the book in 7 months, which is like, I don't even know how I did that. With all my family responsibilities, and then I'm running a tournament in 30 international locations. It's 1v5. I got to explain the concept. At the same time, I'm doing speaking engagements and consulting work, and doing my social media. I don't know how I wrote the book in 7 months, but I did it. But the good thing is that I've directed 3 films. Right, my first one was Doing It in the Park, Pick Up Basketball NYC. That was on PBS and Netflix. I did my second film, Stretching Bobito, Ready to Change Lives. That was on Showtime and Netflix. My last film, Rock Rubber 45s, was actually an autobiographical documentary. So I wrote that, and then I had that. That's my life on screen. So I was able to take that as sort of like the blueprint. So when I was writing my memoir and trying to figure out what's the chapters, what do I leave out, what do I keep in, having directed the film already was helpful. Because I've been writing a journal since 1990. I've sketched down like people's names that I played with, cats that I dropped. I have a list of cats that, if you fell while you were guarding me, you on a list. Real talk, B. Real talk. It's now in Cornell University. They acquired my archives.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So, but all keeping all those lists and being, just clear-minded about my experiences, and was just able to infuse all that. So it was a joyful process, man. And shout out to Andres Jimenez. He was the designer. I was the art director, and he was the designer. So he did all the layout. He took all my ideas for, I got these photos for this paragraph, and okay, let's figure out how to put it. So it was dope, man. Hell yeah.
That is crazy, because as you said, you're journaling back in 1990. But when we think about the art of storytelling, which you do very well in this book and in your films and your documentaries, when you're taking the photos and you're having your list, your journal, whether it's about your life or chronicling different players, different courts, are you doing this knowing that later on in the future you're going to do something with it? Or is it just from the passion of the game that you're just putting this down?
That's a great question. And the answer is going to be no. Because, listen, I play ball whether I got paid for it or not. You know, I was announcing play-by-play way before I got paid for it. You know, we in the park playing 21. Yo, you ain't, bum ass, whatever.
Yeah.
That's how we play in a park, So before I'm getting the check from Nike to do the battlegrounds and their first 3-on-3 in '95 and the Pro City. I was the first announcer at Pro City. A lot of people don't know that before I moved to other gyms. Before I'm doing NBA Street Volume 2 for EA Sports, before I did NBA 2K8, 2K9, 2K10. I'm an announcer, B. And I'm still announcing. I do my tournament FC21 in 30 international cities. Now, I'm not there physically anymore, but let's go IG Live. Yo, put me on speakerphone. I'm going to announce. It's my own tournament,
Yeah,
Nobody's paying me to do that. But it's mad fun, And as far as the documentation process, like I've been able to sort of like quietly and humbly take all my passions and figure out ways to make money out of them. But if I hadn't, ain't nobody giving me a check to play ball anymore. I'm still, this morning I went for a bike ride. I purposely went up a big hill with weights in my back because I still want to be in shape, because I still want to be the best ball player that I could possibly be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I want to be physically fit to be the best ball player that I'm not going to turn 60 next year. I'm not going to play pro ball again, but still that's just in me. So that's a great question, CP.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I archived everything. I jotted everything down just because it was just so phenomenal to me to play against Ali Mo, oh my God, man, he was so nice, play against Speedy, to play against Doogie, all these playground legends that I was like, looking at like, wow, like I'm on a court with them at the same time, like stalked out, So yeah, man, big ups to everybody mentioned in the book, anybody I forgot to mention. But like I said, this is a document of New York City playground basketball that you're just not going to find in the way that I present it, because I'm Latino, raised on hip hop, and the way I write in the book is exactly how I'm talking to you. Ain't no co-author here. It's published by Edge of Sports / Akashic. It's not some, Simon and Schuster. I mean, no knock on them. I'm sure they do amazing books too. But this book could be read by somebody who's not gonna read the New York Times, and they're gonna be like, "Yo," people have told me like, "Yo, I feel like you're talking to me while I'm reading it," and that's how I want to present it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's copy edited. It can be read by somebody who's crazy in the literary space with master's degrees, and they'll be like, "Wow, this is really well written." It's got all the grammar, but it's hood at the same time.
Yeah. No, you could definitely hear that you speaking, in terms of how it's laid out. So you did a fantastic job, and then incorporating your childhood photos, the photos that you took on the playground. I mean, it's really well laid out. I'm reading some comments in the chat. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. My guy Paul Quick is in the chat. He says, I played against Bobito in Attorneys League back in the mid-'90s. All right, so he's throwing some memories out there.
Yep, the Lawyers League. We used to be up in the gyms. That's actually the Lawyers League gets mentioned. The Corporate League gets mentioned in my book, in the chapter called Game Day. I mean, it's not against him. It's against a dude named Adam Rapp, who winds up becoming like this playwright. He gets like a Nobel Pulitzer Prize, whatever. But I met him playing ball, you know. And that's the beauty of the game. You come across so many different characters, Yeah,
no question about it. Roger Black in the chat says, I played against him also in a few tournaments around NYC. He's got skills. There was a good reason he was in that legendary Nike freestyle commercial. All right, so Roger Black throwing up the freestyle commercial.
Thank you for that, Roger. Yeah, that Nike freestyle commercial still has ripples to today. I see people, reposting it, and it won awards when it came out. And for those who don't know, you just look up Nike Freestyle. But, it was me, Speedy, A-Train from the Harlem Globetrotters, Future, a young brother named Louis Trix da Silva who just bodied the whole, he just tore it apart. But then they had, Baron Davis and Lisa Leslie and the old school cast like Jackie Jackson and, Baron Davis, Lamar Odom. That commercial was just so well done.
Yeah.
And I was blown away to be on set. The fact that they kept me in the edit, I was like, grateful because truthfully, like what people were doing that day was mind blowing. I was nervous when I went up to be on camera. I was like, oh my God, I gotta follow up this dude,
Yeah. That's funny, man. Was there, in terms of your creative ability to put this together, was there anything that like the editors were like, we can't put this in there, or because of how the book was flowing that you had to take out? Like, was there anything that you weren't able to put in that you wanted to keep?
Yeah, absolutely. When the manuscript was handed in to Edge / Akashic, it was about 85,000 words.
Ooh.
And the publisher, Johnny Temple, real cool cat. We actually went to Wesleyan University together. I've known him for like 40 years. And so he was like, yo, like, because one thing I had told him, I was like, yo, I want this to be, I don't want it to be cost prohibitive for teenagers. Let's keep it at a price that, if somebody's in high school and they're like, yo, this book looks mad cool. I don't see nothing out on the, Barnes and Nobles like this or Greenlight or, whatever Word Up books in Washington Heights. So, he was like, look, if we're going to have this under 216 pages, we got to cut. And I was like, cool. I ain't got no problem with that. So I chopped like 22,000 words and we got it down to like 60. But then I was also like, yo, I want to have photos in here. So I had to lose like over 100 photos, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? Like the book is the best representation of what I wanted it to be. There's nothing that didn't make it that I'm like, man, but I mean, certainly there were other stories that got chopped that just had to go just for the, it's just like a game, like you going up and down the court. Yeah, you could do like 14 dribbles, but it's a 24-second clock. You got to get the move in and keep your flow so that your teammates are still in their rhythm. You doing an ISO for 24 seconds and everybody's just looking at you like, dang,
Yeah. 100%. And full disclosure, I am working with Johnny Temple and Akashic on my book. Yeah. Me and Ian Begley, Chuck D is also on the project. So we are working on that book.
Big up Chuck D. Me and him worked together when I was at Def Jam. So that's dope, man. You're in good company, and now we teammates, bro.
Yes.
That means we teammates. Label mates.
So I'm gonna be hitting you up, man. When I get writer's block, I'm gonna be hitting you up, man, for some inspiration, man, for sure.
Hit a brother up.
Yes,
I got you.
Absolutely. Salute to the rhyme animal, Chuck D, as well, man. He's he's been a mentor to us here. Never misses a show, and he's been a big part of powering the machine here at KnicksFanTV, man. So we always like to give him his flowers when we can, for sure, for sure. You've been through many of the iconic playgrounds, especially here in New York City. Which was the one that, you really earned your stripes on? Like, which was the park that you felt like, this is my home?
I mean, I grew up on 97th Street. I was born in Douglas Projects. I'll talk about this in the memoir. But, growing up on 97th Street, I lived literally across the street from PS 163 playground. I went to PS 163 preschool. So the schoolyard there had two fulls. Now everybody in the basketball community didn't call it PS 163. Called it the GOAT because it was named after Earl Manigault. Playground legend. Who I talk about lovingly. He was a mentor. He inspired me and everybody else from our era in the neighborhood, and beyond that, because he had a film about him on, what was that, HBO, that Don Cheadle portrayed him, called Rebound. I think it was called Rebound. And that came out in like the late 90s. And Earl passed away, unfortunately in the late 90s. And then I was playing. His son kept the tournament. Earl had a tournament. He started in the '70s, and so his son kept the tournament alive after the GOAT passed. And then in like '99, I made the All-Star team. My squad went to the chip. We didn't win, but it was like, oh wow, like okay, I've been playing in this park. This is where I cut my teeth, like you said, and I was a scrub when I first started. Mario Ellie, you know, we lived in the same building. He wound up playing in the NBA, wins 3 chips with the Spurs and the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to be paranoid to be on the same court with him because I was a scrub. He didn't want to freeze me out. I turn the ball over, he get mad at me. Like, his brother Clark was like legendary at West Fort, legendary at the GOAT, So yeah, I mean, when I started my tournament, FC21, as soon as I was able to get the permit for the GOAT, I brought it right there, and that's where I do it in 30 international locations every summer, right? Hong Kong, Japan, Canada, Dominican Republic, LA, Bay Area, Atlanta we got this Saturday, DC, Philly, Boston, but on and on. So all the winners come to the GOAT. This summer will be August 19th, and they play for the title of the best 1v5 player in the world. And it's like, that's my quiet paying homage to Earl Manigault,
Yeah.
It's like I wouldn't want to do that anywhere else but the court that I was raised on,
Yeah.
So, but that said, I mean, there's so many other courts that I feel dear to, feel a part of, feel like, my film, Doing It in the Park, Pick Up Basketball NYC, which was released in 2013, that was like a complete love letter to the asphalt, hallowed grounds of our 5 boroughs. Me and my partner Kevin Coolio, we did 180 courts in 75 days. So we went to Dykeman, we went to the Pit in Harlem, we went to the Cage in Brownsville, we went to, all these parks that if you're not from that neighborhood, Hungry Ham, if you're not from that neighborhood, you never heard of it, But for us, and for me in particular, like each of them had a story, and I want to bring that to camera. So, yeah.
Well said. Just Knicks in the chat is asking where in Atlanta. You said you mentioned Atlanta.
Yep. So this Saturday, June 28th.
Okay.
At Melvin Drive Park,
Okay.
aka the Snipes Peach Court. I'm doing a FC21 1v5. So if anybody from Brooklyn, y'all call it Utah, but Uptown it's called 21. Every man, every woman, every player for themselves. Whoever has the ball, everybody else on the court is on defense. So the reason why I started this CP was that, as a global ambassador for the game, I've been to 47, 48 countries. Everywhere I go, cats is like, yo, I want to play at Rucker. I want to play at Dykeman. I want to play at Gersh. I want to play at, at West Fourth. And I tell them, like, yo, you can't just roll up. I mean, Rucker now, they do a tryout, which I think is brilliant, but when I started the tournament in 2013, it wasn't like you could just roll up to these tournaments and get a shirt, So what I want to do is design something that could be inclusive. Anybody could register. You're not going to win at 21 when you got 5 people, 6 people guarding you if you're not a skilled ball player.
Yeah.
But can you get a shirt and, get on the court and get an experience, me on the mic bugging out, or, my boy Roman Perez, who's my court director now while I'm, remote. And it worked out and it spread like wildfire, Within 2 years, I did it in Bamako in Mali. I did it in Accra, Ghana. I was doing it in Tokyo and Osaka, Hong Kong, then all of a sudden Toronto, Vancouver, like I'm doing this tournament all around. It's not even reached this peak, bro. Everybody that plays 1v5, they're like, yo, this game is mad fun. I ain't got to pass to nobody, And the 1v1s, that's getting real big on YouTube and all that, right? But now it's one step further. Now it's 1v5. You get double, triple team. You break that. You get to the hole, and now there's 2 more people to block your shot. So you got to be a really skilled player. It's mad fun, B.
Yeah,
mad fun. We don't play no outs. My tournament is like one of a kind. Ain't no tournament that don't have a 3-pointer in this day and age. Because I want to encourage people to go to the Baja. You know, don't just pull up from three. So every field goal is worth 2 points, no matter where you pull from.
No matter where
So
you pull up.
it's a beautiful. You go to fullcourt21nyc.com if you want to sign up. Go to FC21 All World on all the social, you know. And but yeah, Melvin Drive Park, which is where DeAndre is from, aka Little Mosquito. You know, we're gonna have Jay Lou out there. He got all the, you know, Instagram followers. Kimani, the dude that be doing the wild layups, he signed up. It's gonna be OD this Saturday. But you know, then after that it comes to the five boroughs.
Nice.
You know, we're doing the Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, Manhattan, Harlem. We're doing that Kingdom this year. You know, so it's gonna be live.
There we go, man. So just Knicks in the chat. Make sure that you pull up. Make sure that you pull up down there in Atlanta this Saturday. You know, you open the book when you bring up your childhood and your Puerto Rican roots, your family being from Puerto Rico, your parents as well. And what role did that play in, you know, your approach to the game? Because you're in New York City, and the playground scene is super competitive. What role did that play in your approach to the game?
I mean, in every way, it's the fabric of who I am, right? Like, what I learned from playing ball on the asphalt, like, drove me once I became a hip hop public figure. Like, all the qualities that I learned in the park, learn about, like, the history, you know, be true to the game, no sellout, you know, don't sell tickets, you know. So now it's like when I come into the hip hop realm, I'm like, I can't, you know, just be putting on just anybody. Like, I gotta be righteous. You know, there's a lot of qualities of growing up in New York that just, you know, being respectful to people, you know, and being funny and being unique, you know, all that, being creative, being inventive, like, all that's New York, outdoor basketball, all of that, you know, and it becomes my persona in hip hop, and it becomes my persona in the sneaker space too. And so then I want to becoming like this sort of triple threat monster, you know, and I did well in the sneaker world. I did well in the hip hop world. I owe that to basketball, you know? So yeah, all the aesthetic, you know, even the way I dress today is my entry point to the playgrounds in the 70s and 80s. 100%. B, I got on ball shorts right now. Real talk, B. You know? I used to, when I worked at Def Jam, this is a part in the book. Let me see if I can open it up and find a chapter. But when I started working at Def Jam, here.
Hang on, let me get to the full screen. Go ahead. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Look, I write the first article in media history on sneaker culture.
Wow.
Right? For the Source magazine in 1990.
Wow.
What I got on, my Big Apple tournament shirt. The Big Apple games. I got a Big Apple tournament t-shirt on. I'm at Def Jam, you know, and I used to be in there in ball shorts. And then I saw DJing, traveling the world. It's 14 degrees outside. People come in the club. They get behind a DJ booth and like, you got on ball shorts on? It's like, it's brick outside. Like, don't get me out of my ball shorts. You know, I tell people, like, I hope this don't happen anytime soon, but when I die, put me in some ball shorts. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so you ready, man? When you hit the pearly gates, you ready to hoop?
B, it's too comfortable, man. You know? Everything, every little detail of my life is ball.
Yeah.
You know?
Nah, that's incredible, man. And, you know, as you speak about hip-hop, Stretch and Bobbito show, you and Stretch Armstrong, man. WKCR, legendary. You got people in the chat talking about it right now.
Word.
I mean, you know, the Source magazine labeling it the greatest hip-hop show of all time.
That's right.
Nas talking about how important it was at that time to the culture, inspiring him. I mean, just talk about that, like, that stamp that you guys have. You were into the National Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So just talk about that a little bit, man. And
yeah,
the
in
impact on the
2023 was the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and so the National Association of Broadcasters thought it was timely to induct me and Stretch into the Hall of Fame. You know, I couldn't have expected that. You know how you were asking me earlier, like when I was writing in my journal and I was taking photos, if I knew that I was gonna, you know, do something with it at some point. That wasn't the goal in the moment, you know. And similarly, when me and Stretch were on the radio, we weren't thinking, you know, anything but like, yo, let's do a dope radio show, you know, for the people, for the audience, and for ourselves too, you know. So it just so happened that Nas, Biggie, Wu-Tang, Big Pun, Mobb Deep, Eminem, Big L, you know, Company Flow, all these, you know, Jay-Z, all these groups was like either unsigned or up and coming, like nobodies basically. And most of them were teenagers at the time without a contract. And we giving them space and platform to express themselves, you know, and for that, there was a reward, you know, like people still this day, it's 35 years ago that we started the radio show, and people still to this day, like, you know, applaud us, you know, and I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate it. I don't take it for granted one bit, you know, and I was glad I was able to, you know, along with Stretch, contribute to the matrix of what hip hop became, you know, dudes, women being able to, you know, sustain their lives till today because of us giving them a little push in the beginning of their career. So yeah, that's a blessing, bro. That was definitely a blessing.
Yeah. No,
But you know, I'll be in the studio in my Asphalt Green or Handfish tournament shirt, or my Pro City tournament shirt, or my West Fourth tournament shirt. You know, you see pictures of me or video footage of me in the studio, you know, and I'm dressed. I'm a lot. Sometimes I was coming straight from a game. I'll be all sweaty, and then there's one. We were on from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. I'm sweaty. I'm tired from the game, and then we on until 5 a.m. I'm not getting home till 6 a.m. And then I got a game the next day, and I'm like, yo, my body's wrecked, you know. I became a better ball player. This is bugged out, and I didn't mention this in the book, but I became a better ball player when I retired from radio. Because radio was taxing, bro. You know, doing 12 years of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m.
Yeah.
On top of that, I was traveling. I was doing 35 to 37 weekends a year on the road, DJing clubs, you know, outdoor events, whatever. So when I stopped and I was able to get my body more in tune, you know, by the time I turned 40, I was in the best shape of my life.
wow.
You know? And I became more known as a ball player in my 40s than I had ever had done prior, which is well, I mean, I talk about it in my book because I moved to Harlem.
Yep.
I moved to Harlem.
Oh, 04.
And, you know, now I'm playing in the 40 and over leagues, and I'm playing pickup in the projects at Forster and, you know, and Johnson and I mean Jefferson, and, you know, just cats has recognized me. And, you know, these kids like don't even know me from TV, or they don't know me from hip hop. They don't know me from nothing. It's just like, yo, old boy got a nice handle, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think it's also a testament to your breakthrough can come at different stages of your life, different ages. So especially for the younger people who get impatient in terms of, nah, man, you know, it's not for me right now. You know, I'm not accomplishing my goals. I mean, as you said, you at your peak condition and best ball form at 40. It's incredible.
Yeah, there's a moment in my book that's really special. Is I was 43, I think. Yeah, I was 43, and I'm playing in West Fort as a 43-year-old, and I make the All-Star team. Like, I was just bugging. I don't want to tell what says what's happened, but encouraging people. Yo, read Bobito's book of B-Ball Bong Bong.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
It's on Akashic Books. Shout out to Johnny Temple, and it's available in all bookshops that know what time it is come July 1st. But it's also available right now. I got a release event tomorrow in Bed-Stuy at Toys on Malcolm X. They doing from Saturday from 6 to 9. They got signed copies. You know, they're gonna have live DJs. It's open to the public. Come through. I'm gonna do a remote Q&A author talk. And I also got signed. That's on Saturday the 28th.
Hmm.
But on tomorrow, I got release events in Atlanta at Block and Drum, and also in Los Angeles at De La Playa. So
Okay.
people could buy the book prior to the release date of July 1st. Also go to bucketsandbaskets.com where the book and the merchandise is there, you know?
There we go.
Bong bong.
There we go. Somebody in the chat just said that. Chinky Bong Bong. He says, I used to record every week. I recorded so much I started dubbing over the same tapes.
Oh
I think
man,
that
that's
was a
messed
lot
up
of
because
us.
then
Yeah.
you miss what you taped.
That was a lot of us in the 90s, man. Sometimes
Yeah.
you turn on the radio and you hear something like, yo, and you don't know where the new tapes is at. So you're like, oh my God, I don't know what's on this. You just hit record and just hope for the best. You know
Yep,
what I
no
mean?
doubt. No
So,
doubt. You ain't want to miss it because it wasn't like today where everything gets archived.
you're
If you
not
didn't
catching
record
it.
it, then that was it. It just came and went,
That
you
was
know?
it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember I used to record, just hit record, go to sleep. And just wake up, you got a gift, man. You open up the deck, hear what was going on,
Yep.
and yeah, those are sometimes like like you said, you go back to those days, man. Like you don't take it for granted because that's all you had. You can't just everything
Yep.
wasn't on demand as it
Yep.
is right now and available at
Yep.
your fingertips.
I mean, props to being on demand as well, because
Sure,
now we're able to document and learn and be able to research a lot deeper in ways that we couldn't prior. But there
yeah,
was something very special about being present in the moment, where it's like, dang, like if I wasn't here, I just missed it. That was the whole. You asked me earlier about the New York aesthetic.
yeah,
I wanted to be in every park simultaneously at the same time to see. When I was in Nelson Park in the Bronx, I write about that in my book. At the Fojo tournament, and Eminem is on the mic at halftime doing beatbox. I never seen beatboxing before in my life. And I'm just like, yo, what is happening? This dude's making this sound with it. It's 83, it's 1983, 84. There's before records, are out with beatboxing. That's like, there's just so much to experience in New York in the playground, so it's
yeah.
beautiful.
I'm hoping we can because usually when we have authors on, we like to do a giveaway, an autograph giveaway to one of our subscribers here. I'm hoping you be open to it, man. I'm putting you on the spot because we're doing it live. Hoping you be open to it, man.
B, you an Akashic author. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
I know Johnny will give the cosign, so
Let's
we
go.
good. You want to give away a book? Go for it.
Let's go.
Go for
Let's
it.
go.
Yeah.
We got to talk about Streets Volume 2, man. So many people in the chat are talking about it. For me as a kid, I can't, the memories of Streets playing it over the summer, when you get out of school and Pete Rock, CL Smooth, the opener, and
Yep.
just playing that game religiously, voted one of the greatest basketball games of all time. And you're the voice of it, man. What was that
Yep.
experience like?
It was bugged out, I actually wrote about that in my memoir as well, because a lot of people don't know the backstory to that. I was a consultant and, deeply embedded in the Nike sort of Wieden and Kennedy ad agency campaigns in the 90s. And so I wound up becoming really cool with a cat named Jimmy Smith. He's the dude, he was the genius behind the freestyle commercial for Nike, that won all the awards. So EA Sports had put out Volume 1, NBA Street, and it did really well. People was loving it. But the complaint was that it was repetitive because, cats would be on it for hours and hours and they would hear the same words. So, they were like, yo, we want to expand the language, So Jimmy was like, yo, let me reach out to Bob and see if he'd be with it, and I had to fly to Vancouver. That's where the EA Sports headquarters was. And, they give me the script and kind of like, yo, if y'all cool with it, let me ad lib, because if you want to say dunk in 40 different ways, there's only but so many ways to say dunk legitimately that's known. But if I could expand it and say like donkeo in Spanish or, that's like a pizza slice with no crust. It's just stupid, just off the top of the head things,
Yeah.
So I started doing that and they were like, yo, okay, yo, word, keep on going. So I was in the studio for 5 days for 8 hours a day. And I'd be exhausted, bro. And every I used to look forward to the lunch because they had a court on the campus. So I'll be like, yo, come on, let's go to the park, shoot, play horse, You know, most of the dudes on the thing were like hockey players. There was one dude named Tom. He had a decent game.
Yeah.
You know, so we shoot around and we go back in the studio and okay, we're doing this many more. And at the time, CP, I had no idea. I didn't play video games.
Mm.
You know, I'm a ball player. I said it in the first line of the chapter. I wasn't a spectator. Still to this day, I'm not a spectator.
Mm-hmm.
People were like, "Yo, what do you think of the Knicks game?" I'm like, "I don't know. I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
If I get like 45 minutes free time in my daily, I want to be at the park shooting jumpers, you know?" So I had no idea how the game was going to be received. And then it just took off. Like, oh my God. So millions of copies. And, you know, then they were like, "Yo, we want you to do volume 3." All right, cool. I'll do volume 3, you know, and eventually the game just, you know, for whatever reasons behind the scenes in the industry, they didn't continue it. And,
Crazy.
you know, but still to this day, 2025, people still like, "Yo, how come they don't put out NBA Street?" Like,
I've been
dang,
asking it. I've been
you know?
asking them.
But
Yeah.
there's a brand, a new video game company that's about to do something similar, and I'm involved in. I can't speak about it just
Okay.
yet. But when that comes out, why don't I come back
Yeah.
and we build about it? Because I don't want to violate the the contract and
sure.
disclosure and all that stuff. But I will be back on a mic in a video game that's going to be pretty huge in 2026.
Okay.
So follow me on Cool Bob Love, KoolBobLove on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, Patreon, Twitch, you name it, whatever. I'll let people know when it's the time, you know. But
Sure.
yeah, I had a great time doing that, B. It was mad fun.
Yeah. One of my favorite games of all time, no question about it. Just a couple more for you. And once again, we are talking to Bobbito Garcia, previewing his upcoming memoir, Bobbito's Book of B-Ball, Bong Bong. And as he said, he'll be doing a few book tours. Bed-Stuy this Saturday, right?
Yep.
Bed-Stuy
At
this
Poise,
Saturday.
Block and Drum in Atlanta tomorrow night, Friday, and then also in Los Angeles at De La Playa. Oddly enough, right, the 3 book release events that I have lined up, they're all at record stores,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And my boy Roman Perez has been selling my book at Duro Baez at his tournament. MC Coqui at West 4th is going to be picking up a couple copies to sell. It's available at the open runs that me and Roman do together with his Doodle Baez community. I also going to be selling it at my FC21 tournament. So it's like I'm circumventing the publishing industry. You know, that's some real like b-ball hip hop.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like on some cool. Like if you sell copies, great. But I'm gonna lean on my strengths.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so I don't hold my breath for nobody. You know, I'm just active and getting it out there. The book has been on sale in the parks for weeks now.
Okay.
You know, but as far as like, you know, the mom and pop brick and mortar bookstores, which I want people to support, you know, yeah, it'll be on the shelves in July 1st. Shout out to Word Up in Washington Heights. Shout out to Class Bookstore in Houston. Julio de Burgos in Philadelphia. I know I'm forgetting a few others, but there's definitely some Black and Latino owned bookshops that are like, "Yo, we gonna push your joint, B." Word, good looking.
There we go. Speaking of which, man, the rhyme animal Chuck D has entered the chat. Says, salute to Bobbito CP checking in from London. So shout out to the rhyme animal Chuck D, man.
Yo,
checking in from
and you
London.
said he don't miss any episodes, and look at that, yo.
I don't know. Yeah, you don't miss the show, man. The rhyme animal.
Can I talk about Chuck?
Please, I was just gonna ask you that. Please.
So I worked at Def Jam in 1989, and the first record that I promoted, I started as a messenger. The first record that I promoted, because I took on the responsibility of calling up college stations and getting records to club DJs and record pools, but I was still a messenger at the same time. So I was like doing triple duty, you know? Was Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos. I had the 7-inch. I didn't even know the 7-inch existed, you know, but I would be in a closet where all the promo records were. And that was the first record that I've ever promoted. And we was on 45th Street at the time. And Chuck walks in. And for people I don't know how to translate how big Public Enemy was in the 80s to me personally, but also to beyond hip hop, just to African Americans, to, pop culture, to, like, I mean, just like, it's just, oh my God, he was larger than life, you know? Listen, I've interviewed Michael Jordan, Kevin Garnett, Shaka Khan, I mean, you name it, like I've stood side by side with Stevie Wonder, performed with him. Like, I've been in front of heavyweights. You understand? Heavyweights. Chuck D walked into the office and I was shook. Only time in my life I was ever nervous in front of somebody famous. Only singularly. Michael Jordan, he ain't have no socks on. Shook his hand, interviewed him for 10 minutes. I had a column for Vibe magazine, But Chuck, I was shook. But the beauty of his soul. Yo, what's up, man? You working here now? Yeah, what's up? What's your name? To the world? Okay, cool. Yo, I'm promoting your record. Yo, anytime you need me, holla at me. And we talk about word is bond, right? Yo, Bob, I'm in Houston. Who you want me to hit up? Yo, hit up Will Strickland at KTRU. Invite him to the show if you can. You need me to do a drop for him? Yeah, if you can, please. Okay, I got you, Bob. And Chuck was like the hardest working recording artist still to this day I've ever come across. I mean, when he had his first album out, he was still holding down a full-time job. So he's unparalleled, unparalleled in my experiences as, a public figure, record industry, hip hop, ball player, all that. Like, Chuck is like, he's his own person, So it's an honor to be talking about him right now when he's in the chat to hear this, because some of the stuff I don't know if he knows, how like the impression that he made upon me. And I was so appreciative because not every artist at Def Jam was so willing, to cats in hip hop back then it was, they would get high, they get drunk, they won't follow up. They wasn't about their business. They show up late. Chuck was like so easy to work with. What a joy. So props to Chuck, man,
Yeah, man. Shout out to him. No, I always appreciate these stories, and I always try to extract that from our guests that knew Chuck from the beginning, because even me, like, I just turned 40. We got a lot of younger viewers in the chat who just know Chuck through the Knicks talk and all of that. But, you know, I really like to pull out those stories to let people know who this man is to our culture. And so I definitely appreciate those stories from you, man.
I'll tell you another story that just came to mind if I have time. People know Chuck as an author now. He got his new book about Pilates and, illustration, and on Akashic as well. And, people know him as a pundit on TV news shows, talking about, like, Black empowerment and corporate. But, like, in the 80s, Public Enemy was like, the music that they made sonically was such a departure from everything that had been made prior. Like, legendary. I remember being at the World. It was a club on 2nd Street at Avenue B. And this memory just popped in my head. And I love to dance. I love to rock, And I would battle cats, every once in a while. Like, I wasn't nice, you know what I'm saying? But I would get out in the circle and battle. And I was at and they had the sound system of life, bro. And it was like 40-foot high ceilings. It was like an old bar. I don't know what it was. Anyway, so Bring the Noise came on. Oh, and I started rocking, and I'm battling this dude, this Asian cat. And he battled me, and then he said, bloop, and he jumped in the air, did a backflip, and landed on his feet, froze. And I was like, I'm out. I'm out. Like,
I'm out of there.
I'm out. Yeah, I just got taken out. Like, let me not show my face in this club for the next 5 years. But that was to Bring the Noise, Bring the Noise. Public Enemy,
for sure.
And, beautiful, beautiful memories, man. I was on tour with Chuck as well, because I used to be a dancer for Third Base. So that was another act on Def Jam.
Yep.
So I performed at the Omni in Atlanta, where the Hawks played. Performed at
Yep.
the
Yep.
Capitol
Yep. This
Center.
is Dominique.
Yeah, but oh no, Public Enemy was on that. It was the LL Cool J tour. But anyway, but yeah, I mean Chuck, just that's the man. B. I hope he's still listening, still
Yeah, he's
tuned in
still
from
there.
London. But
For
much
sure.
love, Chuck. I love you, B. Respect, man.
For sure. Salute to the rhyme animal, Chuck D, once again, man. And so, with this book, we talked about it, man. Hey, man, if today's your last day, you want to go out in ball shorts. But, if this book is your last word on basketball, what's the one message you hope it leaves behind?
That's a tough question because I think the book has so many entry points, right? Like you could be a Boricua and not even like sports and crazy enjoy the book. You could be into social justice and not into sports whatsoever and crazy dig the read because I use basketball as a tool for social change. I always have, even when I haven't even thought about it in that context, right? Ultimately, I think my first niche audience are the ball players, and I hope they read the book and are inspired to play. But beyond that, I hope that they view it as almost like a template that you can do so many things with this game, whether you on the court or out of bounds. Like I'm a tournament director. FC 21 All World is in 30 international locations. I built that in 2013 from my crib. No sponsors. It was just a concept. 1v5 basketball. No one's ever done it. Let me bring some organization to it and some referees and some scorekeepers and everybody plays 21 in the hood before they start the 5-on-5. Yo, who got the high? You jump in. So it's inclusive, right? So, I talk about starting that tournament. I'll talk about, becoming a filmmaker. My first film was a basketball documentary, Doing in the Park, Pick Up Basketball NYC. I didn't go to school for that, but my love and my passion for ball drove me to figure it out. And so I'm hoping that people will read the book. They see like, oh wow, he was in this context, he's been an author, he's been a filmmaker, he's been a tournament director, he's been an announcer, both in real life and virtual, So I hope that people extract that and see that there's so many possibilities to enjoy and participate and engage. Maybe that's what it is, But I mean, ultimately, if you're a bibliophile and you just want to read just to read, like, I hope you enjoy the pictures. That's another thing that I was, documentarian. I'm a photographer too, Look at these photos, B. I'm so proud of them, man.
Yeah,
Look.
some good ones in there, man.
Come on, B. Look at this photo of these kids in Douglas Projects, on the sideline. I'm mad proud of these photos, B.
Yeah.
I was just shooting to shoot, Just shooting. This court right here is the original Rucker.
Rucker, yep.
The original Rucker, 138th between 5th and Lenox. Before Mr. Holcomb Rucker moved it to other locations, a lot of people don't know that, Little park, So, so through my lens and through my words, I hope I pay justice to what basketball gave to me, which is so, Johnny Akashik and Dave Zirin, the publishers, they were like, yo, man, Bobito's book of Bong Bong is a playful title. And that was deliberate on my part, right? I love alliteration. People ask me, like, what does Bong Bong mean, But they were like, yo, write a subtitle, to make it dummy proof. If people don't know you that still want to read the book, purchase it. So I said, so the subtitle is A Memoir of Sports, Style, and Soul. So that's what I want people to take out of it.
Yeah.
The book has soul to it. The book,
100%.
If you read it from cover to cover, like you can feel the essence of the game.
Yeah.
but particularly the outdoor game. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate for that.
No question about it, man. Well, it was a very well done, well laid out piece, as you said, man. Just so many anecdotes from your life, your journey, the photos. This was very well done, and one of you guys at home is going to be getting a copy of this, a signed copy by Bobbito, man. We definitely appreciate it. You know, Bobbito, this show is yes, we talk about the memoir, but this is your intro show to KnicksFanTV, man. But we got to bring you back, man. We need more stories.
Bring me back, baby.
Yeah,
I'm down.
Yeah, we got to do it, man. So this is just
down.
part one. This is just the intro.
Yeah,
You know, if we were doing an album.
You had asked me to be on like months ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, let's hold that so that the first time I'm on is the splash.
Right.
Let's time it with my book. But if you want, I see Enu be on here a lot.
Enu's always on here, man.
If you want me to come on, but I can't tell you the analysis of the game and the post game, and that's not my lane. But if you just want me to talk about whatever, you know, being I was the first Latino broadcast member of the Knicks in franchise history back in 2006.
Yeah.
You know, I was on the sideline. Al Trotwood would pass me the mic, you know, and I'll be at half court interviewing people. I remember the first time I interviewed Pat Ewing, and I was holding the mic like I was on my tippy toes, you know what I'm saying? They had me in the arena, and I was broadcasting to the arena. It wasn't on MSG.
Yeah.
You know, yo, Pat, what do you think of this? And I'm like this, you know what I'm saying? Like to get the mic to his face. I'm only 5'9".
In the book, I was saving that for the book. I didn't want to give that part away, but yeah, no, that is a great chapter in the book as well, man. But listen, man, we appreciate the time. Good luck on the rest of the press tour and the 1v5 tournament, man. Appreciate it, bro.
All right, cool. Appreciate that, man. Yo, peace, everybody.
Yes, sir. That was Bobbito Garcia, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel, man. Another classic edition of KnicksFanTV. And hey, man, hope you guys enjoyed today's show. We're going to take a pause here. I know we're going to do the book giveaway. We're going to do that a little bit later. We're going to take a pause here. Come back. We're going to talk about some of the Knicks coaching updates. So stay tuned for we'll do another part 2 of KFTV Live later on this afternoon. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Salute to the replay gang. Also, remember that these shows are available in audio podcast format. No reason